Look at that. We're actually on. Joseph Jones was the first one, and then Keith comes in on the back end. All right, so we've got. Can I actually comment in this?
Yes, you can.
Okay. All right, so we're going to go over a couple big factors here. Had some really good questions on the YouTube Lives. Where is the T-shirt? We got the shirt right here. And so first, we got to go over that T-shirt giveaway. Okay, so we know every single Tuesday. Steve, what's up? I haven't seen you in a while. How are you doing? Great to see you in the YouTube Live. I haven't done the private live we recorded last week because I was down in Cuba. What's up, Dean? Dean, Locks, David from Australia, what's up? All right, so the T-shirt giveaway. In our long-form YouTube videos, if you guys comment, and if you like, you subscribe, you have all those channel notifications active, and then you show up to today's live, the YouTube Live. Every week when we drop those two long-form pieces of content, you can subscribe or comment to win this sweet Swole shirt. And we're going to be changing up that shirt week to week, hopefully. But JD for Life 23, she had commented, or he commented on the hamstrings video. All you've got to do now is email us at support@garagestrength.com that you won the giveaway and provide a screenshot of your YouTube studio using this same account. So JD for Life 23 from the hamstrings video. Let's see. Let's put that right there. We go. JD for Life right there. How's that look on the screen? It looks a little small to me, but let me know how that is. How is Cuba? Food was good, and people are unbelievably nice. They also love Americans, which I don't know. I always think that's cool. People like Americans. So, yeah, food was great. Unbelievably nice people. Okay. The other winner of the Swole T-shirt, Vlad Lukashevich. Vlad Lukashevich, VLAD Lukashevich, 1923 on the bench press hacks video. Again, JD for Life 23, Vlad Lukashevich, 1923. Do I have Vlad up on the screen? I do not have Vlad. There we go with Vlad up on the screen. And then all you have to do is email us at support@garagestrength.com that you won the giveaway. Provide a screenshot of your YouTube studio, and then you now can verify that you are the winner. So there's a couple big things I want to do. I had a couple questions last week on, Coach, I want to max out my bench. Okay, I want to max out, Dane, I want to max out my bench. Let's say I bench 405 or nice, Kyle. Nice job with that NAIA All-American thrower. So let's say this is the biggest, most consistent question. I bench 300 pounds. I want to bench 3 plates. Or I bench 395. I want to bench 4 plates. So a lot of people were asking, how do you max out effectively? This was from last week's question. Kevin is in the chat. Kevin, I didn't see your. I want your critiques, bro. Where are those critiques? Also, I just got back from running 7.5 miles, and I'm extraordinarily thirsty. Okay, so what my goal is that first we're going to answer 3 big questions, and then I'm going to give you guys the best way to max out if you want to bench 315 or you want to squat 315 or if you want to bench 405 or you want to squat 405, and they're going to provide percentages and those sets building up, okay? But first I want to give you these 3 questions, three answers. And I've even got the research on here for us to sort of discuss and go over. So this first question was from Baka 6265. Is that the capital of Azerbaijan, or is that Baku? Maybe that's Baku. Hi, I'm using your app, and I would like to know which phase of periodization I should focus on for losing weight, and during which phase I should focus on gaining weight. Thank you very much. So I think the best way to answer this question, for me, the best way to answer this question would be, one, I like to use this piece of research, okay, nutrition recommendations for bodybuilders in the off season, and essentially this document, okay, right here, this document right here sort of shows you if you're in a very hyper energetic diet, what you should be focusing on. And, sufficient protein being 1.6 to 2.2 grams per per kilogram of body weight per day, with optimal amounts of per meal around 0.4 to 0.55 grams per kilogram, and evenly distributed around 3 to 6 meals. Okay, 1 to 2 hours pre-workout, 1 to 2 hours post-workout is another meal. Fat should be consumed in moderate amounts, about a half gram to 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. Okay, so you can use that as a really easy metric. Creatine monohydrate. This even talks about creatine monohydrate, 5 grams to 10 grams about per day. Even beta-alanine, citrulline malate, all these different things. And then even getting into some caffeine recommendations. So I wanted to answer this specific question mainly because as far as periodization is concerned, there's two ways that you can look at this. If you're inside of peak strength, okay, I would argue the best time to gain weight would be during the exposure phase and during the comprehension phase, because they're going to be the highest volume. Okay, so you're going to be in the largest amount of volume. So the first two phases, you're going to be doing a lot of work. So you should be eating as much as possible. And if that's the case, if you're eating a large amount of food, and relative to your total daily energy expenditure, then in that case, what's likely going to happen is you're probably going to gain a little bit of weight. Now, it doesn't really matter, okay? The phase won't matter as much as far as gaining weight, losing weight, it's more going to be based off of just your nutritional intake. So if you understand your total daily energy expenditure, and we've got a really sweet video coming out in the next couple of weeks on this about lean bulking. If you look at total daily energy expenditure and understand how many calories you burn in a day, okay, and then you're eating about 200 to 600 calories more than what that TDEE is, well, then you're going to gain a little bit of weight, but you can play around with that and slowly chip away. So as far as, going back to this original question from Baka, 6265, I would argue weight gain, first two phases of periodization. You can follow this nutritional recommendations for bodybuilders in the off season. That review there just provides a really good one, and it even provides if we look at even caffeine, if you use about, I would say anywhere between 3 to 6 milligrams per kilogram of caffeine for a workout. Okay, so let's say I weigh 100 kilos. If I weigh 100 kilos, I should have 300 milligrams of caffeine before 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So if I'm going to work out, let's say I work out in the morning, I'm going to have 300 milligrams of caffeine in the morning, and I can see what that feels like before I train. Okay, so if I see what that feels like before I train and I feel really good, I can stay there. If I feel like I need a little bit more, I can work up to about 600 milligrams of caffeine, but play in that range, about 3 to 6 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body weight. And that's the big thing here with this study, is that this study sort of shows all of those basic guidelines. So it's a pretty simple follow. It's a pretty simple one that I like to use as that intro, as a peer-reviewed paper on what we should be doing nutritionally. Yeah, just squat more. Kevin, it was great. I'm still compiling notes. We'll email it by this week. Thank you so much, Kevin. Okay, so now we're going to get into at user DG8GJ3WI9N. I think some of these, I love some of these comments anyway, or some of these handles. So somebody asked this question: do quarter squats increase speed? Okay, so do quarter squats increase speed? Now, I think it was 2 weeks ago we used a research paper that broke down soccer players, and they had soccer players that were sprinting, soccer players that were doing resisted sled training, and soccer players that were squatting. Okay, and so these were elite soccer players, 19 to 25 years old, professional elite level. And over a 10-week time frame, the only group that improved their speed was the group that was doing full range of motion squats. Okay, so that is a research paper that we have used in the past, peer reviewed. That was in response to a comment that we had gotten on our soccer video. Now, this comment: do quarter squats increase speed? I wanted to use basically two papers to respond to this comment. Okay. So the first one is going to be using sprint velocity decrement to enhance acute sprint performance. So acute, meaning in that moment, right? Not over a long period of time, but in that moment. And so what this paper here shows is that this is not related to quarter squats, but if we're using, let's say we have a 10-second sprint, if we put weight on a sled and we pull that sled, and instead of running 10 seconds on that exact same distance sprint, we run 35% slower. So we would run a 13.5-second sprint. If we would do that for 2 to 6 reps, that in turn would lead to a better performance in an acute setting of sprint velocity without the sled. Okay. If we get higher than that, so if we get up to 55% velocity decrement on the sled, that won't improve the speed of our sprint in an unweighted situation. So first, if we're going to be talking, the reason why I wanted to bring this paper up is that if we're going to look at direct sprint performance, I wanted to use a study on velocity decrement to enhance that acute sprint performance. Okay. And there is some other research out there around should we go a little bit heavier? Should we go a little bit lighter? Should it be based off of body weight? Should it be just based off of velocity decrement? In an acute setting, it should probably be based off of velocity decrement. Maybe chronically, there might be some issue that we'll see for chronic improvement in sprint performance. It actually might be better to be based off of body weight. And if you're looking at somebody who weighs 300 pounds, probably about 10 to 15% body weight might be a good realm that we would 10 to 15% across the board would be that number that we would be looking at. So I think that to answer the question first, if we're looking at speed, I want to know what are the best things to improve speed right away. And this will show us that using that 35% velocity decrement will give us that acute setting. Other research will show us chronically 10 to 15% of body weight can help us long term. There's also evidence, again, from the soccer example, squatting full range of motion. And that takes us to this next study here. So this next piece of paper there we go with that. Okay, so that's the quarter squat question. Now I'm going to go into this. Now this next document, okay, this is going to be the influence of squatting depth on jumping performance. And so I wanted to point out, this one's from Hartman, who's a classic. Okay, Hartman's a classic, and then Schmidt-Bleicher. Schmidt-Bleicher, if you've ever, actually somebody just commented about Poliquin step-ups. Poliquin based most of his information off of Schmidt-Bleicher. And if you've ever listened to some of my really, really, really old school garage strength stuff, like way back 2014 when I was 300 pounds, I talk about Schmidt-Bleicher quite a bit. So this is an actual study from Schmidt-Bleicher. Now, what we see in this paper, okay, and this one's awesome. And the reason why I wanted to use this one for sprinting is that oftentimes jumping performance has a pretty good correlation to sprinting. Okay, so in our testing here at Garage Strength, when we do our on-site testing, the ones that can jump the highest are the athletes that can sprint the fastest, okay? There's a pretty freaking good correlation. Now, the reason why I'm also using this is because one, Schmidt-Bleicher in it did this. But so if we look at front squat, back squat, and quarter squat. So the quarter squat here is related directly to this question. Okay, so they measure the front squats, they measured the back squats, and they measured quarter squats. And the front squats and the back squats were full depth, as deep as you could go. Okay, butt, glutes draped over the calves. Anti-Joel Seedman back squats, anti-Joel Seedman front squats, okay? And so what they looked at then is they took the quarter squats and they took each group and they broke it down, and then they were looking at what are the squat jumps, and there was 36 men, 23 women, so really good sample size. And they took these groups over a couple different weeks for 10 weeks, okay? So for 10 weeks, and they had an undulated system. They had a strength system, and then they had a power system. So 5 weeks strength, 5 weeks power. And after that, they broke down their squat jump and then their counter movement jump. Squat jump, counter movement jump, back squat in the control group, the quarter squat in the control group saw no change in any of these tests. Okay. Quarter squat did nothing for jumping. Now, front squats, back squat, full range of motion, improve the jumps from a squat jump, which means no arms, and from a squat jump is starting in the bottom position, and then a counter movement is where you dip and drive. Okay, so the quarter squat, which most people would look at and say that directly correlates to a squat jump or to a counter movement because of the angles, the degrees, didn't do anything. Whereas the full range of motion back squat and the full range of motion front squat actually improve the squat jump, and they actually improve the counter movement jump, but the quarter squat didn't do it. And so how I'm going to, my means of connecting this is that squatting depth also showed us in soccer players that full range of motion squats improve speed. Okay. Full range of motion front squats and back squats improves, so that improves speed in soccer players. We also know that it improves jumping performance. We also know that quarter squats, based on the study, off the study from Hartman and Schmidt-Bleicher, does not improve. This study right here shows us that quarter squats do not improve jumping capability. So I would argue, based off of the user DG8GJ3WIN or 9N, does quarter squats increase speed? When looking at the literature, I would argue it doesn't increase speed. I hope I answered that. Now, I got one more question here. So the next thing I want to do, I want to go into the last question from the audience, from the comments on YouTube videos. And then what my big time goal is that I want to get into some of your guys' questions over on the chat. I guess chat. No, damn it. The chat's over here. There we go. I want to get into the questions on the chat. Okay, so if we can answer the questions on the chat. But at the same time, I've got my trusty whiteboard behind me, and I'm going to show you guys how I would max out someone if they want to bench 3 plates, squat 3 plates, bench 4 plates, squat 4 plates, whatever that is. I'm going to lay it out and let you guys, take whatever you need, whatever questions you have, and then you can sort of use that today if you want to go max out. Okay, but this last question, this is from Baitul Makdis. So Baitul Makdis. Ayo, Coach Dane, it's really good that you've been teaching us all this strength and mobility build like an athlete training. How about teaching us how to strengthen our weakest link? Okay, so he's saying, can you teach us how to strengthen our weakest link, the ACL? Do not give us advice as to what food, what training can we enhance. Do give us advice as to what food, what training can we enhance the strength in our ACL or all other prone to tear ligaments. I'm a rugby player. Elephant, trumpet. Okay, so he's asking, why don't we cover what we can train? He wants to see a study like this. Okay, he wants a study on how we train to strengthen the ACL. And the reason why I'm showing you this study, okay, this is rehab and return to play after an anatomic anterior cruciate ligament reconstruction. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is that there's key words in here and key concepts, okay? Enhancing neuromuscular control, doing a gradual progression, right? Restoration of full range of motion, symmetric to the contralateral knee, so making sure that both knees are symmetrical as close as possible. Strengthening of the muscles that stabilize the knee, hip, and trunk, okay? And then if we can just go through this, we can look at it and start to say, okay, for someone to heal, this is specific to healing from an ACL surgery or an ACL tear. And I do believe that if you look at it as one, we want both knees to be symmetrical as close as possible. That will lead to likely improving. Spencer, I don't know if you're ever going to bench 3 plates. 2 45s and a 25 don't count. That's a good question. Spencer, give me 5 minutes because we talked about this in Cuba. That's funny. But if we look at it as far as improving ACL recovery from surgery, this study is specific to that. But I also think you can take nuggets out of this study, Okay, you take nuggets out of this study, and then you can use this in your own training. So we want symmetry from the contralateral knee. So if we have potential knee issues, we want symmetry on both knees. We want to strengthen the muscles that stabilize the knee. Okay, stable. So that's going to be hamstrings, quads, even calves. Part of your calves are biarticulate. Okay, so we've got to look at that as well. And trunk. So we want to train dynamic trunk control, because part of dynamic trunk control is also strengthening that hip. And then that's going to enhance neuromuscular control. So those are the factors of recovery that I also believe play a major role in preventing injury, an ACL injury. Now, there's still going to be a catastrophic issue where you have blunt trauma. Okay, that's really hard to prevent. But if we can train to the best of our capability, there's always going to be something that could potentially happen. And this is, this just goes back to my favorite leg strengthening exercise specific to athletes. Everybody should know is the single leg squat. And if we look at the single leg squat in the position, we have to focus on our trunk control. We focus on strengthening the hip girdle through training the heck out of the glutes, right? Training the heck out of the abs quite a bit. Training the heck out of the hamstrings, and if we have a closer foot position, training the heck out of our quads as well, okay? And then, depending upon how we're positioning our foot, and we even talk about PVC pipe walks, doing things like that, that's going to help strengthen your feet, that's going to help strengthen your calves, that's going to help stabilize your knee joint. That's what we're talking about here. That's going to enhance neuromuscular control. So, although we haven't specifically come out with a video, addressing preventing ACL injuries, I don't think that that's necessarily the best way to go about it. What I think the best thing to do is to understand the best way to recover from an ACL surgery, analyze what that recovery is in the controlled settings. Okay, so you can look at how do they use physical therapy? How do we use surgery? What are we focusing on when we're recovering from an ACL injury? What's the best things that we can do to expedite that so that we can get back into play? And then we can now take that information and apply it to training on the front end. So that's how I wanted to share that. And that's where the single leg squats come into play. That's where back squats come into play, cleans, snatches. But I'm telling you right now, and this is that question or that answer from Bal to Macdis, the rugby player. Injury prevention really comes down to training neuromuscular control and training the supporting region, and that's where single leg squats, I believe, play a major role in stabilizing that knee joint. Okay, so I did want to share that. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to get into this bench now. I want to get into the bench. I want to answer your questions. I thought that the main goal of this entire video would be, all right, let's set up a theoretical bench, okay? A theoretical bench progression. I'm going to try and lay this out. Let's see. Solidarity saying sports science needs to study Daywan Blair, dude. I'll have to pay attention to. I'll have to look that up. Solidarity. Yeah, I'll check that. I'll check him out. All right. So if we looked at this as our goal, right? Bench. Let's say it's bench, squat. Let's say 315, 405. I'm going to give you two examples. So these two examples are what we can roll with. I'm going to back this mic up a little bit. These two examples are what we can roll with, as I feel like most people, would want to hit these big ones. So we'll do 315 first. Okay, so let's go 135. Okay, so if we said, all right, I've got the theoretical athlete. Let's go 225, 250. And we're doing this. We're going to do this in pounds, okay? We're going to do this in pounds for the audience out there, the American audience. But everybody can use the percentages that I'm going to provide, okay? So if we've got a 315-pound attempt, okay? So we're going to try and bench 315 pounds. I'm going to try and highlight that. We're going to try and hit 3 plates. We got 345s on each side, okay? What that's going to look like is we're going to start with 44%, okay? So 44% is going to be this first set. And we could do this for anywhere from, I would say, 5 to 7 reps. Try and do this as quickly as possible. Now, I didn't even include this. Beforehand, I want to do dumbbell external rotation. Let's say 2 sets of 5 on each side. Band pull aparts, 2 sets of 30, okay? That's going to be the warm-up. And you can even throw in push-ups, like 2 sets of 7, something easy. But warm up your shoulders and do some push-ups, okay? And try to hammer that through. Now, we've got 44%. I want to do 44% for 5 reps, and I would recommend doing those pretty much as quickly as you can, almost like an unbroken set, okay? Now, we're going to get into 60.6%. Okay, 60.6%, and we're going to hit a triple. Boom, boom, boom. 1, 2, 3. Hit that as quickly as you can. Okay, now the next one is going to get into 73.7%. Okay, this could be a double to a triple. Okay, rapid. Try to hit that as quickly as possible. Try to go as fast as you can, and now we're going to drop down to singles. Okay, now we're going to get to 82%. So we're going 44, 60.6, 73.7, 82%. Okay, so we hit 82%, we can hit a single. Now we get to 275. When we're looking at 275, this is going to be about 90%. Okay, so we want to hit this for a strong single, as strong as freaking possible. Now, I got 295 here. Some people would want to go 295. Some people would want to go 300. Some people want to go 305. So what I would do here is I would say anywhere from like 96 to 98%. Okay, and you're going to hit that for a single. Some people like making the 20-pound jump from 295 to 315. Okay, some people would rather hit a 305. That's going to be 98%. Okay, so you've got to figure out, like, how does 275 feel? If 275, if you stroke it, put 300 on and stroke that. But now, remember, this is sort of a step feeling. Some things that you could do here, okay, so you've got your dumbbell external rotation. You got your band pull-aparts. You do those. You do some push-ups to warm up. You hit a set of 5, unbroken at 44%. Then you hit a set of 3 to 5 at 60.6%. You hit a set of 2 to 3 reps at 73.7. Some people will do better by repeating these sets, this set or this set. They'll do better if they do 2 sets at this point, because it gives you like an extra point to wake up and really start to light it up, okay? So just be aware right there, you might want to add a set, okay? Now, then you get into 250. Again, this might be where you add that set. This is 82%, 2 reps, 3 reps fast. 275, 1 rep as quickly as possible. 295 to 305, 96 to 98%. Hammer that. Hammer it, and I always like to use these cues, okay? So if I put up on the board here, cues, I like to say like tight shoulders, okay? Tight, keep it tight, drive fast. This is like a real simple sort of tactile one that you can almost like hit their elbows like beforehand, but I like to think extend rapidly, okay? I'll say like drive rapidly, extend those elbows through the wall, drive those elbows through the wall. Then what happens is athletes start to think about, when they think about driving those elbows rapidly, they start to think about squeezing in their shoulders and really pushing quickly. Okay, so this is what you can use to max out to hit that 315. This is freaking literally exactly what we would do here at Garage Strength. And we've got middle schoolers that can bench 300 pounds. It's crazy, okay? Now, I want to give you the 405 because the 405 is going to be just a hair different based off percentages. And we've got to think about when people start to get world class, or not that 405 is that world class, but when people start to bench pretty heavy or lift pretty heavy, you've got to really be creative with their warm-ups, because it gets a little bit harder. There's more warm-ups. There's more fatigue. Okay, now we're still going to do the band pull-aparts. We're still going to do dumbbell external rotations. We're still going to be doing push-ups. Maybe you do clap push-ups here. But so I wanted to go, okay, we get 135. If we're going to try and bench 405, right? We're going to get 135 just for a set of 5. That's going to be like, I want to say it was around 20, 25%. Okay, 225. we're going to hit for a set of 5 to 7 reps very, very quickly. Okay, so 225 is going to be about 55.5%. You want to hit 5 to 7 reps there just to really get the hormones rolling so that you can start to feel, your elbows are getting lubed up, your chest feels good. I believe it's thyroxine is the actual hormone that we're releasing so that our joints are sliding really well. So we've got to start to trigger that around 225. Okay, and I like to make that jump to 275. So this is going to be about 68%. Okay, so then we're going to get to 68%. Again, I think a good strong set of 3 would be plenty here. Good strong set of 3 at 275. And then after 275, you should be strong enough. You should definitely be strong enough to get to 315. Okay, and that's going to get us to 77%. Okay, so now we're at 315, a double to a triple. If you remember to the 315 max out that we talked about, there's a point where athletes, if they repeat, they're going to feel a little bit better. They're going to feel a little bit stronger. And if you repeat, you're going to start to wake up quite a bit more. And this is that point on the 405 maxer. So if you have somebody that's going to put 4 plates on, this is the point where they can hit this for a double or for 2 sets, for 2 doubles or 2 triples. That's where you can start to feel really, really freaking good. Now, this is where I like to go 335 on this. Okay. So 335 is going to be about 82.5%. Okay. So now we're maxing out. We're at 82.5%. So we're starting to creep up. Okay. 350 would be the next one. That's going to get us to 86%. Okay. So we're at 86% at 350. 350 is probably where I'm going to drop to 1 rep. And that's where I'm going to want, to go as quickly as possible. Okay, so if you're going to hit 350 and you're trying to hit 405, you hit 1 single at 86% as quickly as you freaking can. Now, we're going to jump to 365. I'm trying to think about when I'm going to start to lower this over to my other side here. So this is going to be 90%. Okay, so 365, now we're at 90%, right? 90%, again, for the 405 bencher, most guys would stroke 365. The difference is that when you're benching 315, that 90%, that's going to be about 300 or 295. It's going to feel a little bit harder. And it's just something that you've got to be aware of is that 90%, that 365 for a 405-pound bench, most guys will actually, most men or women, whoever's going to be trying to bench 405, would absolutely slaughter 365 if they can hit that 405. So the next point that we're going to get to is going to be around, and this is where we get a little bit hairy. Okay, so now we're going to get into 385 to 390. Okay, so this is where you've got to think through what you want specifically, and this is going to be similar to that discussion that we just had. This is going to be about, okay, so we go 365, then we drop down, I'm going to this side here, okay? This is going to be 385 to 390. That's going to be 96%. Now, let's say we already bench 4 plates, we go to 410, okay? So we can jump to 405. I'm going to put 405 to 410, okay? The next attempt would then be if we've already pressed 405 in the past, we want to hit 410. That's going to be about 101.7%, something along those lines, if I remember. But that's where you want to look at. If your goal, if you've already hit 405, go to 410 or 415. If you haven't hit 405 yet, you can jump from 385 or 390 and get to 405. Now, what ends up happening is, okay, so this is what that max out is going to look like, is that a lot of people, when they start getting comfortable in the high threes, okay, 300 pounds, when you start to get comfortable up there, they start to get more willing to take that jump from 385 to 405 or from 390 to 410 or from 400 to 420. That happens quite a bit where you take that much bigger jump. A lot of people, when they first start to get up into the high threes, they'll take 5-pound jumps. And I think it's like, just have confidence that you can do that. And if you're doing your explosive push-ups, if you're doing the proper pressing movements, you're doing all those things, you're going to be strong enough to keep building. Okay. And this is what we do, inside of Peak Strength in the app is like, this is how we lay things out. This is how we've taught the algorithm to work. And if you guys are following the app, I guarantee you your bench has blown up because we like to do a lot of presses. We like to do a lot of technical coordination movements to really get the thyroxine moving, to get your nervous system to start to get more heightened. And then we lead into a bench or an incline bench, and then we follow that up with, some type of dumbbell press or dips. And that's what this is stuff that we have used over the years to try and educate, that we've put together over the years that now we've used to educate our app, Peak Strength. So head over to peakstrength.app if you guys don't have that yet. Okay, now I'm going to get into those questions. I wanted to share that discussion, though, because we had a couple questions last week on how should I max out properly? And that max out right there was much more bench related, but I would argue you could use that max out pretty well if you were trying to push your back squat too. So yeah, those are just some thoughts. Now I'm going to answer some of these questions over here in the chat within solidarity, but don't want to spill. Yeah, don't get your protein shake within 1 meter of your bed because you can explode your protein all over, and that has happened to me. Ironically, shaking the protein shaker and not having the cap fully on can explode everywhere. Now, yes, so solidarity is coming in and saying about blowing up the bench from Peak Strength. Absolutely, thank you so much there for those kind words. So Kyle, you guys should do a CSCS study program. So we are actually presenting at the NSCA conference this year in the fall. So we are going to be presenting there. And part of that is me also meeting with them and discussing providing CEUs. And I've been in contact with another individual who actually does do CSCS training, so a study program. So one of the things that I want to do then is, one, how can we start to get our courses certified so that they do provide CEUs for a CSCS, but also potentially help people who want to become CSCS. And that's the one big thing with our on-site staff here is how many of our guys are CSCS certified. So let's see here. Keist. At 181 centimeters, what's the ideal weight for football, soccer at what body fat percentage? I would say body fat 12 to 15% would be ideal. Ideal weight there, 181, 100, 80, 85 pounds or 80 to 85 kilos, something like that. Or is that a little high? Let me know what you think. Matthew is saying he loves caffeine from guarana or pure tea. That does it well for him. What are some exercises to get more explosive for dynamic competitive style bouldering? I think there's one. I would train power snatches because that you're in that overhead position and you have to have shoulder stability. Okay, and the more stable your shoulder is overhead for bouldering, the more power output you can create from the shoulder. Okay, so I would do that to focus on shoulder stability, and then I would start to use things like explosive pull-ups, weighted pull-ups, explosive rope climbs, Donkey Kongs. That's what I would do to really train that. Dylan Wood, thank you. Boom, giving you that pound. When training my 14-year-old basketball player's son, should I build mass with hypertrophy first before focusing on strength and sports performance? His body weight is holding him back on defense. Okay, so Dylan is asking, and this is, you can provide clarity here, Dylan, but from what Dylan is saying, his son is super thin. Okay, he's a hard gainer. He's really skinny. And he wants to know if he should do hypertrophy-specific training first before strength and sports performance. Now, one of the best parts, and I've actually shared on a recent, I want to say this is like 3 or 4 lives ago, where I talked about conjunction, basically training hypertrophy, strength, power is more beneficial to train them all in the same program than to train them, 4 weeks here, 4 weeks here, 4 weeks here. So Dylan, my argument would be, why not hit him with, cleans, like 4 sets of 4. Okay. So if you hit him with cleans for 4 sets of 4, and then he does back squats with some ab work, and then he does some hypertrophy-based accessory work, that's where you can get the hypertrophy gains while still getting the strength from the squats and while still improving his sports performance. And again, that's like exactly what we do inside of Peak Strength is like that's how we set up the programming. So you can actually select basketball player, Dylan trains somebody who, his son's a basketball player. You can fill that out, and then that's how it's going to set up your training. But I would also argue, Dylan, what's your son eating? On a regular basis, is he actually eating, let's say, 180 to 200 grams of protein a day? Or is he saying that he's eating that and he's not actually freaking eating it? That's a big one there. Yash, garage strength, played soccer my entire life. The average elite midfielder has a BMI of like 23 to 24. So probably so 180 pounds at 181. Yeah, so, that 85 kilos is 185 pounds. Just so that you know, Yash. So, 185 pounds, around 12% body fat. I think that would be very realistic. I also think that you can have the endurance to have that. I was even thinking like CR7, I thought is like 195, if I remember. I thought he was around 85 to 90 kilos, if I remember. Dylan, that's great. You've been using the basketball program from Garage Strength. I appreciate that. So, Yash, let me know. I do agree with you there. Making sure that they're getting that enough cardio-based training and enough endurance-based training. That's another big factor. Thick is I strained my pec from benching. Do you have any rehab drills to help with that? First, I would try to figure out, was it definitely benching that bothered it? Second big thing that I would do, scorpion stretch. I would even do the sleeper stretch. I would do prayer stretches. I would do rollout on a thoracic wheel, some type of thoracic wheel. Avoid benching or anything that hurts it for 6 weeks. I would just focus on vertical pressing for 6 weeks and then slowly start to bring back in horizontal press. So like dumbbell presses, presses with a football bar and slowly bring them back in with pauses on a dumbbell with neutral grip position and then bring back in the barbell. But ironically, a lot of people will bang up their pecs. Okay, so they'll hurt their pecs a little bit, and they'll just focus on that horizontal or on the vertical press, so like a dumbbell incline or a military press or a close grip incline. And then all of a sudden, when they go back to benching, their bench blows up because their shoulders are so strong. So just keep that in mind. It's okay. Yash is saying CR7 was 83 kilos, but around 8% body fat and 6'1", 6'2". Okay. Yeah, okay, 6'1", 6'2". Yeah, that's these jacks. So 185 pounds just shredded to the gills. Uncle Fester, good to see you in here. How to feel fresh and good the day after leg day. The day after leg day, the big keys would be doing your mobility work beforehand, doing your mobility work about a half hour to an hour after you're done training, okay? Making sure that you're taking enough creatine, making sure that you're getting to bed on time, making sure that you're eating enough protein, doing mobility again about an hour and a half prior to bedtime, and then doing it again the next morning, okay? So there's going to be 3 periods of mobility. I know, like, inside of Peak Strength, the bonus aspect, and I've argued with Trevor about this, is that the mobility part shouldn't even be labeled as like a bonus or as like an add-on. It really should be like, guys, do your mobility. It should be us sending you a push notification like, yo, you just did leg day. That means do these specific mobility movements, okay? That means do hip 90-90. That means do, specific stretches, chair stretch for a long period of time, baby stretch, whatever it is that we were focusing on. So do box squats have any real use for weightlifters? Why can't I see Yash questions in the chat, but only in the stream chat? That's interesting there. Why can't I see Yash questions in the chat, but only in the stream chat? I don't know. Jason might be able to comment on that. Solidarity saying he would opt into some of those push notifications for mobility accountability. That's the big thing. Okay, so I might be a specific user with apps. I personally love push notifications because it forces me to do, like, I have specific apps I use for specific reasons. And yeah, anyway, just want to share that. So going back to the box squats, I believe box squats definitely have their place in weightlifting. I think box squats will get underutilized in the weightlifting world because powerlifters use them. And coaches like myself talk trash on powerlifters. And I should stop doing it because powerlifters have feelings too. So I think that one thing I would say for box squats is that there's a time and place to use them further out from competition. If you have somebody who has a weak pull off the floor, use box squats. Okay. If they really struggle the mid-range of a front squat, use box front squats. And I like to use a deeper box. I don't like using a higher box. I think they're absolutely incredible for improving that pulling strength. So yes, they absolutely have they're super beneficial for weightlifters. But again, I think a lot of coaches don't use them because powerlifters tend to use them. Just to answer that. So Shelby brought up an interesting one here. And Shelby, can you put in, I'm not sure if I believe that the 25-inch vert was the top for the NHL Combine. So Shelby, if you could put a link to the NHL Combine in the YouTube chat, and anyone who's watching on Instagram, we are live on the Garage Strength YouTube channel where we're taking questions. Also, Thick, my name is not Dave, it's Dane. Dane with an N, not Dave. So Thick, you should have been using the max out program that I provided there. Logan Abinator back in there. The mobility should be more prominent in the app. Definitely would like to push notifications. Okay, that's great. That's great feedback. Keist is actually saying he hates push notifications, but he would love for Peak Strength to have push notifications. And then, yeah, you would still be able to set them up individually. If you don't want to have them, you can take them off, Keist. But yeah, for sure. It's funny how that works. I think something like this. I mean, so I don't know if you guys have seen, if you were at the Coaches Summit, I do want to go back to this actually. Shelby, I really want you to put a link to the NHL Combine stuff, because I want to see 25-inch vertical is terrible. My son tested this morning. He's 11 and he did a 25.3, which you can see on my Instagram story. So I wanted to share this with you guys, and this would be like the layout. This is the Peak Performance Planner. Okay, so we gave these out at our Coaches Summit, and the Peak Performance Planner here. I'm going to try and make it so that you can actually see it. Has in here your one main task, your task 2, task 3, notes for the day. You have your schedule. You have your workout here. This is the workout part where you would take this out of let's say out of the app the night before. You write your workout here, but then you would have sunlight, shower, sleep, what kind of water. Did you do yoga nidra or mindfulness, mobility? Did you do any, do you lower your lights? I sort of envision, so this is the Peak Performance Planner. I wanted to get your guys' feedback where I want to have like push notifications based off of like all of that stuff that we could then use inside the app. So yeah, I want to see what you guys thought about that. Anyway, I'm going back to some of these questions here. Any exercise to help reduce knee pain when squatting? I've been squatting and knees have been killing me. I would try Spanish squats. I would go sled pulls backwards. I would do slow eccentric split squats. Okay, so we got the NHL Combine results. We're going to have to do, we probably should do a video on Peak Strength, which did you guys see? Peak Strength just crossed 10,000 subscribers. Thanks for following. So if you haven't followed Peak Strength YouTube channel, head over there. Now, Ferris had mentioned, I'm following the app. I'm following Peak Strength for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but there's no cardio advice. What I'm going to say to that, Ferris, we are adding in cardio add-ons in July, and we're adding in the athletic fitness training program. The athletic fitness training program is what I try to follow. Man, Jason just came in and says 25 inches was the best. How are they testing the NHL vert? Is this done with like concrete blocks? Are they doing it on skates? Is that really possible? I don't know if that's possible. Who's training these people? Okay, I will come back to that. So Ferris, as far as BJJ, conditioning for BJJ, what I would do is twice a week, long, slow distance. So let's say 35 to 50 minutes at 150 beats per minute. So zone 3. And then once a week, high intensity intervals for 20 minutes where you go 30 seconds on, 20 seconds off, 30 seconds on, 20 seconds off. And that would be phenomenal. Yash, yeah, 25 inches. That's bad. So junior tube. Hey, Dane, I'm an athlete who only has changeable dumbbells up to 52.5 in 5-pound increments. What can I do to increase my bench and squat? Okay, so this is a good one. Yeah, Shelby, I guess we got to go find these NHL videos. That's crazy. Now, if you only have, let's say you only have access to dumbbells, you only have access to 55-pound dumbbells, handstand push-ups, super, super high rep dumbbell presses. So get your dumbbell bench, with the 52.5 pounds, get that up to like 20 to 25 reps. Clap push-ups, feet elevated clap push-ups, explosive push-ups to chairs, explosive push-ups to bleachers, and then doing, again, the handstand push-ups. Then you can start to use, you can do triple tries. You can do French presses, incline French press, miracle grows, kickbacks, fly to press. So you can go fly to press. So you can use all of these different exercises, even with the limited amount that you have. And what I would do is pick up one of the Power Elastic, the strength band, and get the HAF band. The HAF band is absurdly heavy. You will get an absurd pump from it. The strength band you can put around your back. And so now those dumbbells that you're using, 52.5 pound dumbbells, just went from being 52.5 pounds to now they're dumbbells that are 80 pounds in lockout. Okay. And then you can even put the band around your back when you're doing explosive push-ups, and you can do push-ups to failure. So I think that, that happens. Ite, how do I progress to 315? If you scrub back to the beginning or around like the 25-minute mark, we show you how to max out for a 315-pound bench. To get to a 315-pound bench, you've got to make sure that you're doing a lot of pressing. You got to make sure you're doing a lot of back work. You got to make sure that you're hitting a lot of mobility work in the pecs and a lot of dumbbell pressing, a lot of dips. That's going to pay off big-time dividends. Get inside peak strength, your bench is going to blow up. It takes me 20 to 30 days to recover from a conventional deadlift PR. 20 to 30 days? This is from Sankey. 20 to 30 days to recover from a deadlift PR? I don't freaking buy it, dude. That's crazy. Are you sleeping afterwards? What are you ripping, like a gram of caffeine and staying up for 3 days? If it takes you 20 or 30 days to recover from a conventional deadlift PR, then you should probably stop deadlifting and just start squatting more. I think that's absurdly long. I could give you 7 to 10 days, but I even think that's a little bit high. But yeah, if it takes you that long to recover, then stop doing them and just do more explosive work and more squatting work. Hey man, been following you for a while. Any advice for youth wrestling strength training? Youth wrestling strength training, a very specific niche. Biggest factor here for youth training, and this covers the gamut from youth football, youth gymnastics, youth wrestling, youth track and field. Teach fundamentals. Teach athletes how to move well. Okay. One thing, if you follow me on Instagram, Ghostface D Milla, my son, I posted a video of him today. He's 11 and he weighs about 115 pounds. He's pretty tall. He is a 25-inch vertical. He just cleaned 60 kilos. He's got pretty good clean technique. Okay. Like, it's not amazing, but it's pretty freaking good. And we've progressed him over a long period of time. So, one of the big factors is we taught him the fundamentals of the movement. We've taught him the fundamentals of the back squat. We've taught him the fundamentals of pull-ups, of benching, of plyometric work, so he can do really good jumps. He can do all of these rope climbs and stuff. And so even for youth wrestling, it should be a focus on push-up execution, dips, dumbbell bench, pull-ups, neutral grip pull-ups, rope climbs, cleans, snatches. Learn the mobility, learn those positions, learn the technique, and execute as well as possible so that we're consistently building the fundamentals. If we build the fundamentals, then when kids start to hit puberty, they start to get into high school, the fundamentals are instilled and they're imprinted in them. And be positive. One of the biggest factors that I see is that dads specifically, kids will come into the gym and they want their kids to get really, really strong, really, really fast. And they'll yell at them. They'll get mad at them. Now, we don't let dads in the gym, but they'll still almost like berate them. I can't believe you didn't hit that lift. And it's like, dude, kids need to learn how to be uncomfortable. They need to learn what it feels like to be under the bar. They need to learn what it feels like when their arms start to burn. Okay. Some kids, like, their arms start to burn. And they're like, oh my God, I feel like my arms are burning. Well, why do you like? That's because they are. Like, your arms are literally burning. Like, it's okay. Just push more. Get another 3 reps. And then they start to learn, younger kids start to learn that feeling. And I think that's a big one. Locks has been here for a while. Best ways to improve your clean. This is from Locks. Yeah, Sankey, if it takes you 30 days, stop doing deadlifts and just start doing cleans. And if you clean more frequently, when you clean frequently, that's going to improve your ability to recover. Kevin, I don't know if I truly, truly believe in overtraining unless you're in a very, very negative social situation. If you're in a negative social situation with a relationship, or you're being abused, or you are struggling mentally yourself, I think that's when overtraining tends to happen. I believe most athletes do not achieve overtraining. I do believe that, actually. Best ways to improve the clean. This is from Locks. Clean more. Do more hang cleans. Do more cleans below the knee. Do more 1-box cleans. Do more 2-box cleans. But what it all comes back to is, I would say 3 days a week, do more full cleans. Work your technique. 1 day a week, you go a little bit heavier. Increase your front squat. Increase your back squat. Kevin, I want to see what you think about that, as far as my thought there. Why wasn't there a Le Mans strength and conditioning video last Saturday? Was the race last Saturday? Man, I missed that. I was in Cuba. Back extensions after every session, that helps quite a bit with that recovery. I wouldn't say overtraining is a myth. I just believe that it is a very, very small fraction of the population that's actually capable of holding themselves accountable to show up and get to the point of that physical issue. It's a very, very small fraction of the population, because most people aren't training more than 4 days a week. And weightlifters, sprinters, football players that are, really, really high level will train 9 to 10 to 12 sessions a week and not overtrain. But they have very, very high recovery levels. So it's like, and they're also in good social situations as well. I think all that stuff does come into play. So this from Josh Babs. I want to get the Garage Strength app, but my dad doesn't really trust it. What can I do to convince him? I really believe it will work. Josh, what I would do is download it for those 7 free days. Show it to your dad, and show him how we walk you through that. Select your sport, select your peak date, select what you're training for, and then say, like, look, this is developed by me. The programming is laid out by me. Yeah, I think that's where I would go is trying to find the fact that we're going to help you become a freak. Okay, Josh. So it's like, this program will get you specifically to become a freak and to perform on freak level. And what we built it on is the years of success here in coaching. And so Kevin just came in. It may be the term. Yeah, I think you're probably right there, Kevin. Is it overtraining, or maybe Sankey's super active? I will say this, like, we've had people who've worked at the gym as like, they work in really, really physical jobs. So like, Let's say they do they're a garbage person, or they work with batteries or something. Those jobs can beat people up, but ironically, they still can handle training because that's like their point of letting loose. I would say my Instagram is Ghostface D Milla, Millah. Is it better, Chris? Is it better for a beginner over 40 years old to do the high rep, low weight, or heavy weight, low rep? I would start with high rep, low weight, Chris. High rep, low weight. Jeez, high rep, low weight. Yeah, I think that I'm on the couch all day. No, you're not. I do not overtrain necessarily, but it's like I hit a PR out of nowhere, and then it takes me days to recover. I think Sankey, along those lines for recovery, it's like, make sure you're sleeping well. Make sure you're, I'm gonna ask this question, Sankey. Are you playing video games, late into the night and not getting enough sleep? Are you taking caffeine after 5, 6 o'clock at night and you can't sleep? Do you wake up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning and go out and get sunlight? Bring all of those things in line and try to really line up that recovery aspect to get the circadian rhythm rolling, and try to avoid caffeine after 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that might help you feel better a lot quicker. I think those are all things that we don't factor into recovery that really, really come in to be like that low hanging fruit. So I think that that's stuff that we miss the boat on, especially in strength and conditioning, is that we're avoiding those things that can really, really lead to a long recovery period. Ferris just said, so 2 days long, slow distance at about 150 beats per minute and then 1 day of HIIT. So how many rounds? Okay, so for high intensity interval training, let's say you get out on a hill, set a clock. You got 20 minutes, hill sprint up, walk down, hill sprint up, walk down. Or let's say you do a 5-minute test on an assault bike. You go 5 minutes on the assault bike, 60 RPMs. Then you go 2 minutes rest, and then you go 2 minutes on the assault bike at 65 RPMs, 1 minute rest. And you can do games like that on the assault bike for 20 minutes, but it's high intensity here, then you drop down. High intensity, drop down. You get on the track, and you could do fartleks where you sprint on a straightaway, walk the corner, sprint straightaway, walk the corner. Anything along those lines, but do that for about 20 minutes, and that's going to help how you feel with your recovery, or that's going to help how you feel with your conditioning for BJJ. I think there's some sports that you might need a little bit more work than just doing that, because the sport is even more based around endurance. I think when you're peaking with wrestling, if you're about 8 weeks out, you should really be doing probably a little bit more. But there's a whole bunch of different factors that we can take in as far as things are concerned. I didn't see this one. Hey, Dane, I'm a 210, 6'1", defensive end, and I have a 5 flat 40. Should I focus on my speed or strength? I would focus on both, and this is for Lions. If you're a DN, you've got to be fast and you've got to be strong, and oftentimes squatting more, just like those soccer players, will lead to more speed. So if you're doing more full range of motion back squats, your squat will improve and your speed's going to improve as well. So I would try and focus on your back squat, your cleans, your snatches, run hill sprints, run with sled sprints. We talked about the velocity decrement earlier in the live, so that stuff does help. Okay, so Sankey's talking about he takes that. So how much protein do you take a day there too, Sankey? I would ask. When athletes taper for a competition, how many days of full rest from S&C and from skill practice would you recommend before the comp? This is interesting. There was a taper paper, and maybe we could talk about this next week, how to peak for a program, or how to peak for an event, how to peak a football team, or how to peak an athlete. And the tapering didn't really even show to be overly effective. Now, I think depending upon the athlete, the more advanced an athlete gets, I do think it will show that tapering does work a bit more for them. So I usually will say, like, 3 days out, we would go to like 85 to 90%. 2 days out, you would only go to about 60 to 70%. Then a day out, maybe you rest, or you play around with those days depending upon the athlete. And as far as like the skill practice, some people like to have skill practice the day before a competition and just focus at like 60 to 70%. Some people like to do skill practices 3 to 4 days leading up into a comp, but each day just gets a little bit easier. So you've got to play around with all those aspects yourself and see what works. Locks, follow up to my clean question. Can I clean one day and hand clean the next? Yeah, I think you could do a full clean on like day one. Let's say on day 2, it's your athlete day. You do power clean, front squat, or your athlete day. And then impulse day, you're doing full cleans again, or power cleans and full clean complexes. So locks, I think that's something that you could do. Again, that's stuff that you can do inside the app Peak Strength. And this live cast is brought to you by Peak Strength. Head over to peakstrength.app if you guys want to pick up an app that's designed to help you become a freak athlete. I'm going to take 2 more questions. Wish to see you guys work your app with Whoop. That would be absolutely awesome. I've even thought about that as far as working our app with some type of macro tracker. And then even maybe we would create a macro tracker ourselves. Sankey, what about RDLs? We're really trying to solve Sankey's problem here. Hormone check might be beneficial. It would never hurt to go get a check. Absolutely, I agree with Kevin on that one. At what age should kids start to dedicate time for these hearts are like in the way of my for S&C and not just focus on their main sport? This is a good question, Keist. I think that I do think that most younger kids could start doing strength and conditioning around the ages of like 10 to 12. And it can just be like general work. And then by the time they're 13, 14, you can start to do more sport specific stuff. Shelby is asking, 25-year-old for the 50 free. I've got a girl who's trying to hit 47.68. She just hit a 48.23 in the 100 free, actually. She's an absolute animal. What would you do for power development within a pool workout? I like the pool. I like sprint work in the pool. I like pull-outs from the pool, like actually coming out of the water and then diving back in. I like dead hang pull-ups with weight. I like explosive pull-ups. I like rope climbs. I like sled pulls with the upper body. I like close grip pull-ups. But yeah, I have a custom programming for a girl who's a state champion out of Michigan, and she's trying to hit the qualification for the Olympic trials for next year in the 100 free. So she's a total freak. So is training 3 times a day optimal for athleticism? That's quite a lot. That's a lot. Suck deep booty. You ever use accommodating resistance for bench and squat? If so, I've used them. I've used bands. I've used chains. I've used eccentric hooks, and I've never seen it help more than just conventional resistance training. Have you had powerlifters trans into weightlifting? Yes, but the biggest thing that they struggle with is the change of direction, extension into hip flexion. Their pulls are usually good, and they also tend to struggle a little bit with that front rack. But it's also the technique. The technique is so much more challenging. I've seen more success of weightlifting to powerlifting than powerlifting to weightlifting because I just see the robotic issues carry over into weightlifting quite a bit. Yash, okay, so yep. Number 1 lift for hammer throwers, close grip snatch. I'm going to head out now. Thanks for tuning into this week's live. Don't forget to comment down below on all of our YouTube lives, our long form lives. If you guys want to become a channel member, you can subscribe to our channel for $10 a month, and we do a private live every single Friday. Until next time, guys. Also, don't forget to head over to peakstrength.app. Download the app. You can start to bench more, clean more, and become an athletic freak today, because at some point, you guys got to begin that journey to attain peak strength. Peace.